The Parsha of Matos begins with the discussion of Nedorim, of vows, of commitments that people make. The Meforshim point out an entire Masechta regarding this Parsha, Seches Nedorim. The Meforshim point out that people who are prone to make Nedorim do so on an emotional basis. In other words, something happens. Let's say A has a disagreement with B, and he's angry at him. And because he's angry at him, he makes a neder that this person can never have any benefit from him. Or other such types of cases, which are based on the emotional reaction of people. Now, when people cool down and they think of what the consequences are, because most of the time people don't think of what the consequences will be later. They act in the immediate moment. So when they cool down, they regret it. They regret having made the neder. However, a neder is binding, and the Gemara discusses there are technical requirements of the language that make it a neder, that don't make it a neder. But he's stuck. His wife served him watermelon for dessert, and he's very aggravated and whatever. So he says, from now on, I'm not going to eat watermelon. Watermelon is usher to me. And then 2 days later, he wants watermelon. He regrets having made the neder. So therefore, the halacha provides an escape hatch, so to speak. That every neder has a Pesach, has a doorway out. And what is the doorway out? Is that he comes in front of a bezdin, or many times he can come in front of an individual, a rov alone, and he can say to him, this is the neder that I made, these are the statements that I uttered. And the rov will ask him, did you realize that when you said, that you'll never have watermelon again in your life? And he says, no, that was not my intent. I didn't realize the consequences. Had you known that you would never again have been able to have watermelon, would you have made such a neder? And the man replies, no, I certainly would not have. So then, the neder is canceled. It's annulled. We have found a Pesach for the neder. And the Pesach is that the person didn't realize the full consequences of his nedorim. Now, Chazal basically are opposed to making nedorim under any circumstances. And we find the Meforshim say that the women were quick to make nedorim on domestic reasons. And therefore the husband had the power to annul the neder, because again it was made emotionally, it wasn't made on the basis of a permanence. We have a vestige of that remains with us. We have a formal remembrance of it. Erev Rosh Hashanah in the synagogue, we have Hatoras Nedorim, where people in front of a Bezdin recite the fact that in the event that they made a neder, they want it to be canceled. Nobody wants to go into the new year with nedorim. And we also say, which is a big discussion in halacha, ve'afal pi she'eni porton, even though I don't identify what the neder is, because many times I don't remember. And nevertheless, I want that you should wipe the slate clean. Any neder, any circumstance should be annulled and canceled and not have effect. And therefore, it became traditional amongst Jews that whenever a person made a promise or a commitment, or he said, I'm going to do something, they always prefaced it by saying, B'li neder. I'm specifically saying that this commitment should not be considered a neder. I intend to fulfill it if I promised you, but nevertheless the din of nedorim should not descend upon it. The Gemara treats the sin of making a neder and not fulfilling it as a major sin for which tragedy comes into the family, God forbid. And therefore, we're always careful regarding these nedorim. Now, there are certain nedorim that are not cancelable. And those are nedorim that are made publicly. Neder barabim. So because that affects that people hear it, it's a rabim. And so therefore it becomes well nigh impossible to be able to cancel it. So then the question arises, for instance, people come to shul and they get an aliyah and they make a commitment and the mishaberach that they're going to pay. So if you say b'shvil shani know their tzedakah, so tzedakah there could be. So next day you give 5 shekel to a poor man and you're yitzin a neder. But there are times that they say that the neder is to the Beit HaKnesset, or the neder is to a specific cause. And those nedarim have the effect of binding the person to making good on his pledge and what's involved. And there are many times in life when, for whatever reasons, pledges cannot be redeemed. Financial situations change. Personal situations change. And because of that, therefore, so there's always a problem of the neder that is involved. You know, the old bad joke is that the office of the United Jewish Appeal was broken into and the robbers stole $100,000 in pledges. So, but that has a halachic effect. It should not be treated lightly, and therefore the idea of saying b'li neder is a valid safeguard against falling into these problems of nedorim. Now it's interesting, and before she discuss, this week's, the first parsha is called Matos, because of Vayidaber Moshe el Roshei Amatos Livnei Yisrael. Moshe spoke to the leaders of the tribes, and he told them the parsha of Nedorim. Now, why was the Parsha in the Dorim spoken to the leaders of the tribes more than any other mitzvah? More than any other subject matter that appears in the Torah? It doesn't say matos, by tzitzis, by tefillin, by anything else. What made this special? So there are many commentaries to this as well, but one of them, which unfortunately is honored in the breach, is because it says in the Parsha, in the Dorim, Kol hayotze mipiv ya'aseh, that what a person says, he should do. And that is true of every individual, but the Torah places special emphasis on the leaders of the people. The leaders make a commitment. So then Yaseh has to do what he said. So we live in a time when leaders make promises and commitments. And then they say that what I see from here, I didn't see from there, there's always a way out. There's no way to hold them. But that's a weakness in our society. It's a weakness that you say one thing, but you never intend that it should be fulfilled. And the Torah holds us accountable for that. And that's why it says, Kol hayotze mipiv ya'aseh. What a person says, so my word is my bond. And so you'll find that in halacha, for instance, there is no difference between oral commitments and written commitments. In law, in common law, in English law, in American law, there is a difference. There's the statute of frauds, it's called, is that an oral commitment on real estate means nothing. If I say I'm going to buy your house, for $1 million shekel, and I don't, it doesn't mean anything. I never committed to do it because orally I'm not bound. But if I sign a contract that says that I'm going to buy your house for $1 million shekel, so then it's legally actionable, then I can be bound. But in the Torah, that makes no difference. In halacha, it makes no difference because of this concept of Kol hayotze mipiv ya'aseh. You made a commitment to do it, so then you're bound to do it. You should do it. Therefore, people have to be very careful in their speech and in their commitments. What we treat lightly when we say what we're going to do, because if in our eyes it's not to be taken seriously, or I don't really mean it, then you shouldn't really say it. And that was the idea that was given to the Roshei Amatos, because they were in a very vulnerable position in Jewish society, the heads of the tribes. So the Torah wanted to emphasize to them that their word was their bond as well, and they would be held to what they said and to what they promised. Rabbi Hanan, if they say bli neder, nobody's going to believe you. You can't run for office.